Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, and here, by popular demand, is the Pieter Wispelwey Complete Channel Classics Recording Cello Stuff, 35 CDs. Really an extraordinary legacy devoted to music for the cello. And Wispelwey is, without a doubt, one of the great cellists of the, before us in the 20th century and 21st century. Really amazing. And he had in Channel Classics a label that believed in him 100%, backed him in whatever he did, recorded just about anything he wanted. And as a result, you have a lot of duplication, which I think is a little bit unfortunate, to be honest, but at an extraordinary high level all the way through. I mean, the guy never made a bad record. He really didn't. It's that simple. So after I scratch my nose here, there we go. We can continue with our 35 CDs and see what's in here. It's basically divided into a bunch of sections. You've got chamber works from the Baroque period, cello solo works from the 18th to the 20th century, concertos, chamber music with cello, and then special product. Yes, a special product. I usually ignore special products because I don't regard them as very special. But anyway, or productive. But we'll see. I just have to say, I had the opportunity to see Wispelwey in concert a couple of times, but most notably, way back, I don't know, some of you may remember this, back in the days where there were distributors in the United States and in the rest of the world. Independent labels needed to have distribution for physical product. Now, somehow, it all just, I don't know what they do. The only one that's really left is Naxos. And Harmonia Mundi. Those are the two that are left. And Albany's still out there, too. Okay, so there are a few distributors still around. But in those days, they were Harmonia Mundi and Qualiton, which had a lot of, Hungariton and Superfon and the Fons, and Allegro. Allegro had Koch. No, Koch was its own distribution, pardon me. There was Koch, right? And then there was Allegro. I'm forgetting. It was so long ago, it seems. But Allegro, which was based in Portland, Oregon, had something called the Allegro Conference every year or two, where they would invite critics and magazine people, of whom I was one, and we'd all go to some hotel somewhere. In this case, it was in upstate New York. I think it was in Albany or somewhere like that, or somewhere up around there. And we would hang out for a few days and meet the labels, and they would make presentations, and we'd listen to music. We'd have a fabulously wonderful time. And at one of these things, Pieter Wispelwey was there. He was brought there by Channel Classics, and he gave a program of solo cello music, including some Bach stuff and the Kodály Solo Sonata, which is really a big, big work. And frankly, it bored me to tears, but not because the performance wasn't good, because it was just so long. And a solo cello for that length of time, well, it's sort of a, how do you listen to a solo violin or a solo cello for an hour and a bit? It was hard. But anyway, he was amazing. He gave a fabulous presentation. He talked about each work and how to perform them. And he had several cellos and things. He had a Baroque cello and a regular cello, and he talked about the differences between the two. He's a consummate musician. A great, great master of his instrument. Even if you're not a big, a fan of the Kodály Sonata, you have to acknowledge the mastery with which he performs. And I don't ask for people to turn, to get blood from a stone, if you know what I mean. Anyway, let's see what's in here, because there's just a lot of stuff, and it's really, really fine. First, you get El Booklet, which is a nice booklet. And you get complete track listing. Oh, good. I don't have to pull all these things out. These are not original jackets. They all look like that. So, it doesn't make any difference, actually. But Channel Classics always had the highest standards of, audio quality and whatnot. So when they linked up with an artist like this, it was a golden opportunity to just, create a legacy. And that's really what he did. So we've got the CD one. We begin with, hang on a moment. Let's see. Baroque stuff. Vivaldi, 6 cello sonatas, performed with on a Baroque cello, I think, made by some guy in 1710. I don't know who it was made by, Westinghouse or something like that. And he plays with Florilegium, which is a wonderful Baroque ensemble. I mean, they have all kinds of period instruments. Of course, he's playing on a Westinghouse, and Florilegium plays on General Electric, so they may be a little different, but, it's okay. Then we've got Telemann trio sonatas of various types, all kinds of juicy little nuggets, really nice to do. I mean, Telemann wrote such good music, and people still look down on him because he was so prolific. Well, I know the feeling because I've done more than 4,300 videos in like 3 years, and I know I'll be looked down on for my prolixity and profligacy. But you know what? So what? Who cares? Okay, so you've got a bunch of those people. And they're just lovely. And then we've got J.S. Bach, Gamba Sonatas, Riddle Preludes, and Baroque Perpetua. What's the Baroque Perpetua? Well, that's interesting. And here you've got Richard Agar. My goodness, he's harpsichord, organ, and forte piano. Hello, Richard. He watches. Did you remember these? Do you remember doing this? Wispelwey was something, wasn't he? I mean, he's really something, and so are you. It's terrific. So that's great. With Daniel Yeadon cello. Then we've got part 2. Okay, so those are the 3 discs of like miscellaneous Baroque things. And I'm really glad that there's only 3 discs of it, quite frankly. He plays it all splendidly. It's lovely, and it's enough, frankly. But then we get part 2, solo cello works. Here we go. From the 18th to the 20th century. And this is discs 4 through 10. Okay. So out of 35, 7 with just cello. Thank God. That's enough of those, too. I mean, it really is. However wonderful the playing is, and it is, wonderful. We have the Bach suites. Well, he did these twice. Actually, he's done them more than twice. But for cello classics, he's done them twice. Why do you keep doing them? I know. They're infinitely variable, and you can do them infinite ways, and they're infinitely thrilling and infinitely fascinating for cellists. For the rest of us, 1 or 2 or 3 sets is enough, but boy, can this guy play them. And I'm not going to make comparisons between the two. They are different. They aren't different in ways that, radically transform how we conceive of the music, but they're different enough so that you hear those differences in the various performances of the various suites. And so it justifies redoing them or rethinking them. People will have their preferences. The first set, I think, is as often the case, is a little bit more fresh and spontaneous, but because he had to do something different the second time around, the second may be a little bit more, shall we say, a little bit more artful, which is not to say arch, but, a little bit more studied. Either way, they're superb performances. You just can't argue with them. Then we've got, Ligeti, Sonata for Solo Cello. Pieter Sculthorpe, Requiem for Cello Alone. I mean, it's a really nifty 20th century repertoire in here. There really is. Sculthorpe's cool. Hindemith Sonata for Violoncello Allein, Opus 25, number 3. Roger Sessions, 6 pieces for solo cello. And Gilles Muring, whoever that is, La Belle Dame sans Merci. Okay, well, that's, whatever that is. Then we've got the Rager suites for solo cello, and also works for cello and piano. There's a suite for cello and piano, just the vegan lead for violin and piano, and a version for cello. But the rest of it is like stuff for solo cello and bits interspersed with things for cello and piano. That is such a smart idea. The Rager solo cello suites are good music, I have to say. I don't particularly care for them, but I respect them. I do. And boy, are they not going to be played better than they are here. And the lovely thing is to have the pieces for cello and piano betwixt and between them, because then you have some tonal variety if you want to play, the entire record at a sitting. They're not unduly long. So you can do that. And the whole program is more than the sum of its parts. It's lovely. And Paolo Giacometti is the pianist. He's playing a historical piano. Oh my goodness, a Wurlitzer it's a Blüthner from 1890, circa. Then you've got the Britten suites for solo cello, also splendid contemporary works. They were written for Rostropovich, for the most part anyway. And they're wonderfully done here. 76 minutes, those are big works. Big, serious pieces. Splendidly written. Then on CDs 9 and 10, you have his second recording of the Bach stuff, which we have already addressed. Now, let us see what we have in part 3. Concertos. Okay, Vivaldi, Concerti. Cello concerti and some transcriptions that were violin concerti played on the cello and all sorts of things like that. So these are with Florilegium again, and they're as wonderfully done as you're ever going to hear them done. Let's not kid ourselves here. They're not technically, the most difficult things in the world to do, and you want fresh, lively, and if it's on period instruments, fresh, lively, period-y performances, and that's what these are. CD 12, the Haydn Cello Concertos 1 and 2. Oh, these are great. They're just great. And you get the Symphony 104, the London Symphony with Florilegium, which I like a lot less because I think it needs a much bigger orchestra. And the period things, they're always, hit and miss on Haydn. But boy, the cello concertos are just terrific. Then we've got the Schumann Cello Concerto and Fantasia Stücke and Hindemith's 3 Stücke with the Australian Chamber Orchestra under Richard Tognetti. They're very, very good. It's a wonderful performance. And you get also more chamber things and all this. Because, the couplings on these discs originally, I think a lot of it was financial. Of course it was financial. They could do an orchestral work, but they didn't have the money to do nothing but orchestral works, to make these orchestral programs, glamour programs, you might call them. And so they would fill the orchestral pieces with chamber pieces. And as a result of that, you get some very interesting programming, actually. I like it. I like the programming. Then you've got more Hindemith, 3 pieces for cello and piano, and Schumann, 3 Stücke or 5 Stücke in Folkstone, but only one of them, the Langsam. You get more of them later. Again, with Paolo Giacometti, so that's fine. Then we have the Dvorak Cello Concerto, number 2, actually, which is the one that we know. There's an earlier one, that Dvorak never orchestrated, that's been orchestrated since, and it pops up now and again, and it's actually rather nice. But the Dvorak Cello Concerto, which he recorded more than once. So they're both in here. And you also get works by Tchaikovsky, Orensky, and Davidoff. So it begins with the Andante Cantabile from the Tchaikovsky String Quartet number 1 in the version for cello and harmonium. Okay. Because there isn't enough cello music. You have to invent more, right? Then you've got the Cello Concerto and the Rondo in G minor, and Orensky's 4 Morceaux played on harmonium, and Carl Davidoff's 4 Stücke Opus 20, only one of those. And then from the Bohemian Forest by Tchaikovsky for cello and piano. You get just strange, interesting programs of major works and sniglets. So the Netherlands Philharmonic is under Lawrence Rennes, conductor Rennes, however you pronounce his last name, and it's very well done. It's beautifully well done, but it gets better because there's another one. Then we have Dvorak Cello Concerto and the Symphonic Variations with Budapest Festival and Fischer. That's a live recording, and it's really splendid. So I can understand him wanting to do it again. I don't know if the first one isn't better. I have a hard time choosing between them. They're both excellent, absolutely excellent. Saint-Saëns, Cello Concerto number 1. Again, the Tchaikovsky Andante Cantabile, this time for cello and strings instead of cello and harmonium. And the Rococo Variations, which I completely detest because I think they're boring. And the Max Bruch Cold Nidra. This is with the Deutsche Kammerphilharmonie Bremen, which is amazing. Under Daniel Sepetz, is the leader, and he's the cellist. There's no real conductor, and wow, they play amazingly well. Shostakovich Cello Concerto number 1 with the Kodály Sonata. Oh, the Kodály Sonata. How long does it take here? My God, it is long. It's 32 minutes, 33 minutes and change. With the Australian Chamber Orchestra and Tognetti and the Shostakovich. And that's a slammer. It's a fabulous performance of the Shostakovich. Because of the coupling, it did not get a lot of the attention that it otherwise might have earned. And it's really, really hot. Hot stuff. Fantastic. And you also get the Shostakovich Cello Concerto number 2. Yay! With the Britten Cello Suite number 3 again. Unless that's the same one as before. And I didn't look. I should have looked. With Sinfonietta Cracovia. Again, with no conductor. It's quite well done. surprisingly well done. The Prokofiev Sinfonia Concertante in E minor. That is such an awkward piece. Oh my God. And it's splendidly played here. Really, really splendidly done with the Rotterdam Phil under Vasily Sinaisky. So that's good to have. There aren't that many great performances of that piece. And you have Cherepnin's Suite for Solo Cello and George Crumb's Sonata for Solo Cello on the same disc. So it's quite a collection of goodies, my word. Elgar and Ludoslavsky cello concertos. Well, here they're coupled. They're both magnificent pieces. Of course, I'm not such a fan of the Elgar, but I love the Ludoslavsky. And the Elgar is done so nicely here. It really is. It's a beautiful, heartwarming, but not sticky performance. Everyone likes Jacqueline Dupre because she's sticky. Well, Wispelwey is emotive, but not sticky. And I prefer it, frankly. With the Netherlands Radio Philharmonic under Jaak van Steen. Oh, Gubaidulina, the Canticle of the Sun, and other chamber music for cello, choir, and percussion. Well, that's a major Gubaidulina piece. And also 10 preludes, excerpts for solo cello, and In Croce for cello, and Bahan. This is, the Collegium Vocale again under Daniel Royce, who's one of the great choral conductors of the universe. And you have a bunch of soloists and the Prometheus Ensemble with percussionists and a celestist and people like that. I was never a fan of Gubaidulina's work. I really wasn't, and I'm still not. I find her somewhat pretentious, actually. but she's very serious. She's very, very serious. We gave her an award at the Cannes Classical Awards, and she showed up for the awards dinner. And fortunately, she was seated next to my dear colleague Christoph Huss, who it was then with what was the magazine, the French one, and I forget. And he subsequently became the critic up in Montreal. Which is where he's having a great time, I gather. But he sat and had to talk to Gubaidulina for the entire dinner. And afterwards, because she sort of whispered the whole time, and afterwards I said to her, what did she talk about? And he looked at me and said, she talked about water. I'm like, okay. Very seriously, I'm sure. Anyway, so there's the Canticle of the Sun. Yeah, I mean, it's modern if you like it, fine. It's impressive. It's an impressive piece. It doesn't hit me. Then we have Treasures from the Chamber Music with cello in part 4. The Schubert Quintet with the Orpheus Quartet. This is one of the great Schubert quintets. I am not kidding. I'm so happy it's back and in here because it was out of print forever. It's glorious. Wispelwey, the Orpheus Quartet, absolutely glorious. Beethoven, Variations for Cello and Piano, first recording. Okay, they're all wonderfully done. They really are. With Lois Shapiro on a forte piano, which is made by, who is this? Toshiba. A Toshiba forte piano from 1780 or something like that. Then we've got Beethoven, the complete cello sonata's first recording, part 1. Yes, he did them multiple times with Pieter Komen forte piano. In this case, it's one of Beethoven's own period. Really fascinating, made by Panasonic. And then we've got, Brahms cello sonata's first recording with Paul Komen. He was a very good pianist. And the Schubert Arpeggione Sonata and Sonatinas, which were for violin, remember, but they're arranged for cello here, which is really fun, and he made his own arrangements of them, so they're lovely to hear. Those are with Paolo Giacometti, who I really, really enjoy, because he did the Rossini stuff on the same label that was just fabulous. CD 28, Chopin, Fauré, Poulenc. Okay, the Poulenc cello sonata, yay! Fauré bits with cello and piano, and all the usual stuff. And the Chopin cello sonata with Paolo Giacometti, it's just terrific on a real piano. Franck and Brahms cello sonata. Of course, Franck never wrote one. He wrote the violin sonata here arranged for cello. The Brahms violin sonata in G minor, opus 78, version for cello and piano. So it's not the usual Brahms cello sonatas. They're coming, I think, somewhere here. Schumann, Adagio and Allegro for version with cello. It's a lot of transcription work here and very nicely done. Chopin cello waltzes. So you've got bits of Chopin arranged for cello and piano. And that's just a fluffy disc with Dejan, or Dejan, I don't know how you pronounce his name, Dejan Lazic, playing a Steinway D. Oh, wow, a real Steinway. Lazic is kind of nuts, and he's good for this repertoire. Wispelwey and he actually, play off of each other quite well. Shostakovich, Britten, and Prokofiev, cello sonatas, fabulous with Dehad Lazic again, and Beethoven, complete sonatas and variations. Second recording, part 1. Again, we get Beethoven. Yes, Brahms, cello sonatas, second recording, and others. Yeah, there they are again. And you get that other violin sonata transcription thing with Dehad Lazic. And then part 5 is the special project. One of a kind, Brett Dean. One of a kind, music for Netherlands Dance Theater, ballet in 3 acts for solo, cello, and tape. It says here trape. I think that must be a typo. There's got to be a trapist. Unless it's a trape. I don't know. What's a trape? It doesn't say. There's Simon Hunt is the sampler. So that must be the trape. Okay, so it's got a trape. And okay, that's the special project. And it's a big, long, oh my God. It's a big, long sucker. It's 14, 13, 10, 10, and 19 minutes long. So it's very, very special. Yeah, I haven't listened to it. I should. I have to confess, I knew all of these recordings, and I've checked out many of them, but the Brett Dean so far eluded me because I just saw a special project. I figured it was one of those interview things, and I hadn't looked at the booklet because, I just looked at the back of each disc as I was playing through the box. And, so I have to go and listen to it. I have no opinion. It's special. I'll agree with that. So anyway, here we have really an extraordinary accomplishment. A remarkable disc, 35 CDs, featuring amazing cello music, some really interesting cello repertoire, and it will keep you occupied probably for the rest of your life. I know it's good for the rest of my life, but my life is not going to be as long as some of yours. I mean, I think some of you are much younger than I am. You may have more time, but really, I'm so happy to have this because it has so much great music and it's in such a convenient place. And because Channel Classics is a small independent label where, distribution and availability has sometimes been patchy, even though Jared, who runs it, tries his damnedest to make sure everyone can get it, I think this is really special. And I'm very happy that Channel Classics is starting to do boxing up its repertoire and re-releasing it at a good price, because these are really discs that just deserve to be heard. And they had several features. They should do all their Ebony Band stuff. There's a bunch of stuff on Channel Classics that works really, really well in boxes. We've already talked about some of it. So keep on listening, friends. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care.